Welcome to another episode of Beyond Cheers, the Detective Gomez Files. I'm your host, Detective Gomez, and today we're talking with Betty. Betty's got a story for us today on how one text message changed her life forever, and she never looked back after that. So, Betty, how are you doing today?
Good. And you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thanks for being on our show today.
Thanks
Thanks for
for having
being a part of Beyond Cheaters, the Detective Gomez Files. We constantly like to share stories here so people can use your experience to help them in their future in their relationship. So let's get right into this. So you meet this guy, you've been dating for like 10 years. You recently, just a few months ago, you caught him with this text message, and now you're done with him. You moved out, and you moved out on your own. You left him there, grabbed your stuff, and just left him there. But let's talk we'll get to that in just a minute. Let's talk about how you met this guy first. Let's talk about where'd you meet him at?
Well, I met him on Halloween at a pool hall party.
Hmm.
I was a sexy pirate, and
Okay.
he was Michael Myers with the mask on.
Okay.
He was actually there with. He's got several brothers. He's got like 5 brothers. So he was actually there. It's. I found out later that that was their place to drink. It was down the street from where they lived. I was originally interested in his brother, but he's the one that came over and said, "Nah, I like you. I want to."
Okay. So
And he
okay.
swept me off my feet.
Okay. Good. To sweep you off your feet. Obviously, it was something special because you have spending 10 years with a guy. So, how did y'all get into moving in with each other? I'm sure, obviously, you dated for a little bit, but who moved in with who, and how did that go?
Yeah, I already had my own place. We actually made it official that December. Um, he was staying with his mama, and that should have been my first red flag that I ignored.
Okay,
But eventually, he just basically just stayed more and more over in my home until he was living with me. So it really wasn't ever official, just more of a gradual. This is what's happening.
okay. So you're living together. You get a lease. You got a lease in your name, right? You're renting a place,
Yeah,
correct?
my name, which was
Okay, you got
convenient that the holes in the walls and stuff like that that he would throw his tantrums. Hello, I have to pay for that.
okay. So talk about. I mean, you're there with this guy. Talk about some good times. You ever any good times with him? Is there anything ever good about it?
Oh yeah, actually there was a lot of good. It was a roller coaster. It really was. It was ups and downs. It was severe highs and severe lows. It was all the classic signs of a narcissistic relationship. And again, all the red flags of my guardian angel, I just kept ignoring.
Okay. So narcissist is really just another word for asshole. You know it, right?
Yeah, right. Well,
Okay.
it was the idea that he was
Sorry.
keeping me away from my friends and family. He
Mhm.
was trying to control my whole relationship when I was outside in the public, when I was home. Um, very. I mean, the man was gorgeous, but he seemed to be so insecure, especially about losing me type thing. Like he just really wanted to make sure he had me and had a
Was he one
hold
of
of
these
me.
guys that had you delete all your male friends on Facebook or anything
Oh
like
yeah.
that?
Actually, I wasn't allowed to look at a man in the eyes. In fact, still, I know it's only been a couple months since we broke up, but I still have a problem with looking men in the eyes. I look over their heads
Wow,
because I was trying to
that's
avoid him getting
crazy.
upset about it. Yeah.
So obviously you had some bad times too. Would you say your relationship was toxic, possibly?
Yes.
And why
Yeah,
would
but
you say
I
that?
would have not been able to say it during the relationship. I would have
And
never
why
been
would you
able
say that? Why would you say your relationship was toxic? Tell me that.
because it was the highs and the lows. It was the baby doll, baby face, bitch, horror. Oh, I love you. You're so incredible. Oh my God, you're disgusting and hateful. Da, da, da. I mean, the highs and lows. He would get aggressive and a physical, especially when he had this attitude that a very very old time sexist
Okay.
where you should be at home barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. You should never talk back to me. I had the last say on everything.
Did y'all have any children or anything like that?
I already had a son, which
Okay.
basically he was a stepfather for. Now the thing is that one thing that really was weird was that I never he actually showed me on how to be a better mother, which is
Hmm.
weird for somebody so toxic. But he was the one who implemented the outings and arts and crafts and really taught me how to really engage with my toddler.
Okay.
And that's what I admired about him. And he also made sure that anytime he was upset or angry, he never did it around my son. So that almost ended up being my excuse of not breaking up with him, because he was a good daddy.
Mhm.
Again, you never know when you're in that type of relationship how bad it is until you finally get out of it and you're like, oh my gosh, I can breathe.
Were there ever any signs of him cheating or anything like that? Did you ever think he'd be cheating on you or anything?
Oh
Anything? Any?
yeah, there was multiple signs throughout the relationship, but again, every time I brought it up or my suspicions, it would be a whole huge blowout fight. They turn the finger, turn the situation out on me type thing. Again, a classic, I'm guilty, so I'm going to make sure you feel like it's your fault.
Wow. Okay. So, you're obviously talk. When y'all got into fights, what happened? Would you leave sometimes and just be gone for go back, like go back to your parents or something, or would he leave? What would happen when y'all got into fights?
Well, since it was my house, I would actually have him leave. He would throw a tantrum on not, he was not the type to sleep on the couch. So if I couldn't get him out of my home, which was most of the times, I would end up being sleeping on the couch and he would have my bedroom. So
Okay.
he was never going to be like, I could not get rid of him, basically. And if I went to my mama's house, I knew that he would do something, destroy my house, throw a party or whatever, just to be, how dare you leave at nighttime all night long? You're supposed to be with me.
All right. So you're in a toxic relationship. Things aren't going great. He's not obviously not the same guy you met at the Halloween. Well, his name was Jason, right? So uh, it's probably pretty horrifying. But besides that, you're in a point in your relationship where you're like, okay, this isn't working out. At what point do you like, okay, I'm gonna, at what point do you start to, suspect something? Did you ever spy on him, or did you ever catch him talking to other girls or anything like that?
Well, for him, it wasn't really catching him as much as that he really didn't hide it as much. Again, it was, I bring it up, how dare you bring it up? Don't you dare bring it up type thing. This is not happening. Ignore it. But then, I would hear him with his buddies and everything else. And then, oh yeah, that girl the other day, man, she just gave great head, blah, blah, blah type. And I'm like, I'm listening to these guys have a conversation. I'm like, what's going on? Why did you say that? And he's all like, oh no, I was just showing off for the guys. I don't do nothing. I mean, and the thing is that I even had his mama come up to me, and she's very heavy Hispanic, does not speak a lick of English. And she said, my son is bad. He's bad.
Wow.
And that's when I'm all like, okay, I need to start opening my eyes. I need.
Okay, so you start, opening your eyes. Let's talk about that for a second. I know you mentioned that one text message kind of changed your life forever,
Yeah.
and you end up getting. I mean, you're in your own home, and you said, "Screw it, I'm getting my stuff and get out of here." So,
Yeah.
tell me about it, because I know it's hard just to leave. Sometimes you just got to leave it and go, because you have a child also. So tell me about what led up to you finding the text message, and what led up to that? Because the
So
text
he
message was
was
his phone.
what?
It was the text message was on his phone, correct?
Oh yeah, it was his
Okay.
phone. Now he didn't like the regular expensive cell phones. He likes the cheap little flip phone type thing. So when I saw that open, I thought that was a little weird. Um, but it was mostly, he didn't, I noticed that there was girls hitting on him when I would go over and he was at his mama's house. I would show up and I would see actual car of girls leaving. He would use the excuse so that was his brother's girlfriends. However, later on I find out his brother's all like, no, that was all him. And it was, for him, it was just more of that, this is my right to do type attitude. And I had to realize and wake up to that.
Mhm.
And it was just, stop being blind, start opening your eyes, lady, start getting
Right, right.
yeah, stop pushing it off of, hey, I'm going to break up with him at the next fight. And then it's good. So you don't, blah, blah, blah. It's time. And that text message, that honestly, that was heaven sent. I mean, really, the last 3 months, the air feels light and airy, and it doesn't feel like this heavy cloud of just negativity anymore. It was beautiful. I mean, of course, it hurt when it happened, but it really has been awesome ever since. Like, I felt like this was more than overdue.
Right. Okay. So what led up to the text message? I mean, you found a text message. So where did he run to the bathroom and leave his phone open, or what happened? Tell me
So
about that.
basically, he left the phone on the dresser open, like I said. So a flip phone was actually just laying there open. And he went over to his mama's house, and he said he was only going to be gone for a little bit. Um, but like I said, when I went into the room, I was all like, that's so weird that he didn't close the phone.
Right.
So it wasn't really curiosity as much as I already knew what was going on, and I wanted my evidence. I wanted the truth. I wanted something it's tangible.
Okay.
And sure enough, I open it up, and it's right there on a little text message of him having a current conversation with this girl. On the text messages, he's all like, I loved meeting you the other day. So it was somebody that he was saying that he just barely met. You're
Okay.
so beautiful. Don't feel intimidated if I'm so busy. I want to go and see you. So I knew when he's saying I'm busy, it's because he was with me.
Right. Of course.
So he's playing this little girl too. I'm not shy. So I immediately called her up, and I'm all like, who is this? And she said her name is Maria. And I'm all like, okay, well, you're calling my husband's phone. And she's all like, no, I'm actually calling David's phone. I'm like, no, you're calling my husband's phone, and that is David. And she's all like, no, you got the wrong person. He doesn't have a wife. He's never even been married, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, we even have a child. We've been together for 10 years. And she sounded like she was young.
Wow.
I mean, we're in our 30s and 40s, and this girl, I swear, she sounded like she was in her 20s. And
Okay.
she was so sweet, honestly. She was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I didn't know. And completely, I guess she blocked me or whatever, because she just basically hung up, and then I couldn't call her back.
Well, did you see? Were there any photos? What in some of the messages say? What those say?
So yeah, so they weren't really okay. Well, there was one provocative picture that was, his junk, his a lower picture.
His dingling.
Yeah. There was a picture of her wearing her brawn panties sitting on the bed. Now, I didn't see her face, but again, the way her body looked like she was a little girl. It
Right.
looks too young.
She looked young, probably in her early 20s or something like that, right?
And then with a
first of all, how'd you know it was his dingling? How'd you know that?
because he has a birthmark that looks like the state of Texas. I know it's stupid, but it does, right on the inside of his thigh.
Okay.
So, we always, this is my big Texan, is what he would call himself, my big Texan. And I'm like, look, I see Texas right there. So what's up?
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so he's obviously started sending pictures of each other to each other. She hangs up on you. You go through the phone. Obviously, he's trying to get to know her. I mean, he has to come home at some moment, right? I mean, he has to come home, and I realize he left his phone, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I actually met him at the door because I knew if he came into the house, I could not get rid of him. And it didn't help anyhow. He still pushed his way into the home. So that's why I ended up saying, I that's it. I'm done. I'm calling the police. You need to get your stuff out, and I'm leaving right now to my mom's house.
Okay.
He tried to deny it until, like I said, I was all like, look, I already saw not only their pictures, but the text messages. At first you tried to say that she was an old friend of yours. She's not an old friend. You said right here that, I'm glad I met you and stuff like that. And again, he was more of an attitude of, how dare you approach this to me? This is not real. You're making it up in your head.
Well, so did he, although you're invading my privacy by going through my phone or anything like that?
Yeah, how dare you, right? You're the one that started this fight. You're the one that's beginning this fight. You're the one that's saying things that are not true. And I'm all like, okay, I'm done. I'm so done. And I swear, when I said I was done, it really felt relieving coming out of my mouth. Like I was wanting to say it for so long that I finally had the guts. And I was pretty proud of myself.
I'm very proud of you too. I mean, it's hard to let go of a 10-year relationship, but especially when you got the toxic stuff going on, you got the name calling, you got all these other things happening, plus him sending, obviously, I don't know if he was actually in a relationship with this girl now, but it looks like it was leading up to that. And then you start seeing him send if he sent his pictures to her, who else he sent his pictures to?
Well, that's another thing. Since we have the same crowd and same group, I found out that it was not just her, it was multiple girls throughout the years type thing. I even asked my friend, I'm like, why didn't you bring it up? And he's all like, because he's my friend. I don't narc on guys. And I'm all like, well, you are narking on him now.
Wow.
But
The
yeah.
when you left that day and you went to your mom's house, what'd your mom say?
Relieved. Oh, she was so relieved. I mean, at that point, my family was like, he's toxic, you need to get away. My daddy wanted to take him out, and I mean take him out.
Most fathers do.
Yeah, and he is one of those old type don't mess with me type guy.
Right. No, it's good to have one of those around, because sometimes you just need a man to go in there and handle the situation.
Yeah.
So your relationship's over. This happened, 3 months ago. Did he finally just leave after a while? What happened?
Oh no. Well, the thing is that I knew that he was afraid of police because he already had a good record of he was a drunk, major drunk.
Okay.
And I didn't know that drunks were, when they're habitual, when they take one sip, it's like they're drunk already.
Right.
Because they have so much alcohol in their system.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, he was too afraid to deal with police. So when I left and said, I'm sending the police over, he immediately left.
Good.
In fact,
good.
I still even have some of his stuff. I was all like, I'm not trying to get in touch with you. You should have gotten your stuff. It went to Goodwill at that point. What was left? It didn't go in the fire, which I really wanted to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it was cold enough, you could have had a bonfire. The question I want to ask you, I mean, you went through a whole lot. You spent 10 years with this guy.
Yeah.
The people listening right now, and I'm curious to know this too. Why did you wait so long? Why did it take this to get you out of this relationship? Did you keep thinking you could make this thing work, or what? Why did you wait so long?
It's hard to explain because, again, unless you're in my opinion, a Stockholm relationship, you don't realize how controlled you are until you finally wake up and get out and look into the picture. When I actually was able to step back and look into it, I was like, okay, this is enough. But I'm the one that was paying the bills. I'm the one that was bringing in the utilities and everything else. He wanted to play house daddy, but it was beneath him to do dishes and laundry because that's a woman thing. But I'm like, so you just want to babysit our son while you watch TV and play video games?
Wow.
But
I know it's tough. And it's tough to let go of 10 years, but sometimes you just got to do it, especially when you're dealing with an alcoholic. Betty, in your situation right now, and our listeners probably have these questions, or maybe you can give them some advice. In this particular situation you're in, what would you tell somebody else who's in this particular situation or going through something like this? How would you tell them how to handle it? So what kind of advice would you give them?
Don't ignore your red flags. Don't ignore your inner voice, your guardian angel, whatever you want to call it. Don't ignore, because that's the one that's telling you, hey, I got this gut feeling, you need to listen. And I mean, if I had listened, it would have only been a couple of months and I would have gotten away from that. Instead, it was just 10 years of me thinking I could fix something that was non-fixable.
Yeah, and 10 years of your life that you'll never get back.
Yeah, really. And again, I still have this I don't know how to flirt yet. Again, it's very early for 3 months and stuff, but I can't even look men in the eyes. I'm still conditioned like that. So
wow.
I allowed myself to do that.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad. But again, the air is fresh. Everything is beautiful. And I felt like I needed him. And now I'm all like, why did I ever think that? I can do everything on my own. And people that are in that situation,
fantastic.
They really need to realize that when you get out, it really is going to feel so good.
It'll feel great. Feel great. Well, Betty, I want to thank you for being part of our show today. I know that, breaking up is never easy to do, especially when there's a child involved. And I'm sure there was some, you had to explain some things to your child that, hey, he wasn't going to be around her anymore. But as they get older, you'll be able to explain those things to them. And for yourself, knowing that you're free again, it's like you can actually breathe again. You can, be yourself. So, people, if you're listening, take Betty's example, know that, pay attention to those red flags. Don't try to ignore them. And sometimes you can't fix it. Staying with somebody's not going to fix everything. Get out, and I'm sure your friends try to give you some support and you probably ignore them too, right, Betty?
Oh, I mean, everybody, again, you're so blind. You're thinking that everyone's just, they don't know what they're talking about until you get out of it. And you're like, you guys are so right. I don't know how I was so blind.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Happens all the
Yeah.
time. Well, Betty, thank you for being part of our show today. We really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of our show today. And we'll see you next time on Beyond Cheaters, the Detective Gomez Files. Take care and have a great day.